Square Enix has done a complete reversal on their monetization policies, and instead of stopping a lot of YouTubers from covering the game, they are now explicitly supporting coverage of their game. This is fantastic news, and you know what it means? Plenty more ZiggyD coverage of Final Fantasy XIV coming your way. G'day, ZiggyD here, and in today's Final Fantasy XIV video, I'm going to be giving you guys a level 20 recap and guide to the Archer class. Now, I've been playing the Archer for a while now. It's going to be my main class. I'm going to be transitioning into the Bard, more than likely, and I'll be bringing you guys regular guides to the Archer and how it plays out. So, we'll be taking a look at some of the basics of the class, how it plays, giving you guys an idea maybe whether you want to play the class, and then I'll be taking a look at each of the individual skills and the rotations I use up to this level, inside and outside of dungeons, so you guys can have a bit of a way to play the class effectively if you're feeling a little bit stuck. And these tasty looking antelope does here are going to be our cannon fodder, our practice dummies for this particular video for you guys to check out. So without any commentary, I'm just going to go ahead and kill one how I would normally kill one. So I'll try. I won't commentate this part actually. I'll just show you guys how it can play out. And we'll even activate our buffs for this particular kill as well. Let's see if I can get... Oh, I missed my proc there. There we go. And the finishing blow. There we go. Very nice. As you can see, Archer is a very bursty class, very high DPS, probably one of the highest DPSs in the class, especially in terms of burst damage. I think, from what I've seen so far, at least at this point in the game, it can kill mobs very, very quickly, and it's very fun. I like the skills as well. They have their standard, a good mix of standard global cooldown skills, and skills that are off the global cooldown that you can pop out in between other attacks, and it makes the class a very active one to play. Also, it's one of the only classes that can really kite and move around while attacking effectively. You kind of have to do this, keep looking at the mobs so you can get your auto attack to proc, while also, running to the side, circle strafing, and running back and moving out of danger and things like that. You can also continue to attack while you're moving out of AoE effects, which is really cool. The reason I played the Archer was entirely because it's the most active class to play, I feel, after having tested a bunch of them in the closed beta earlier. And since I've only ever really played other action MMOs, and this is a tab targeting MMO, I wanted the most active class, the most one that I had to move around the most and do the most stuff on. So let's start taking a look at the Archer in a bit more detail. Firstly, I'll just take a very brief look at the character sheet. The Archer's main stat is dexterity. I always get a lot of questions about what should I put my points into when I level up, and put all of your points into dex. You have range for a reason. You can be out of harm's way. Well, sure, vitality is helpful to have, but dexterity is where your damage comes from, and you are mainly a damage dealing class. So sink all of those points into dex. As you can see, we have 100 dex at the moment, and that gives us quite a bit of attack power. There's not too much else to say about stats and gearing in this game. It's all pretty basic. Just keep going with your gear. If you have a choice between gear, go for ones with dexterity, critical hit, determination over things like vitality and strength, obviously. And accuracy can be a mild help as well. Skill speed is also a little bit nice, but in the early game, you really want to go for just that pure dexterity and crit damage to, speed up your leveling a little bit more. So now let's start talking about some of the basic skills and rotations. All of these skills that I have here are just from the Archer. You can pick up some other good cross-class skills from the different damage-dealing classes, and even Cure and Protect from the Conjurer are pretty useful to have in terms of cross-class skills, but we'll just be taking a look at the core skills in this video. So let's start off with Heavy Shot, your first, the Heavy Shot Straight Shot combo, because these two skills really go hand in hand. Heavy Shot is a single attack of 150 potency. It does a lot of damage, and once you get to, if we bring up our skills and traits here, if we go to our traits, once we get to, where is it? Heavier Shot, there we go. Once you get to level 8, Heavy Shot gets an extra proc. It has a 20% chance that your next Straight Shot will be a guaranteed crit. So this means you're bouncing between Heavy Shot and Straight Shot a lot, keeping your critical hit rate up from Straight Shot, and proccing those guaranteed crits from Heavy Shot, Straight Shot as well. These will be your main two skills that you'll alternate between when your other skills are on cooldown, or when you're not using your other skills, when they're not relevant. So basically, just to demonstrate these two together, I'll often open with straight shot. Now what straight shot does is it gives you a flat increase, a passive increase of 10% increased crit rate. Now you pretty much will be having this up all the time, and you should be aiming to have this up all the time. It lasts for 20 seconds, so that's pretty easy to do. And generally I tend to open with it as well, because that boosts your crit rate right at the start there. So basically, once you've procced that and that's up, you just want to keep using heavy shot. Now I actually used heavy shot one too many times there. And once this little flashing box comes around straight shot, you want to use straight shot for the guaranteed crit there. And you know, that'll also refresh your stack as well. Although for some reason that didn't go up, I might have missed on that particular attack. But we'll kill this antelope, and maybe we'll do a Misery's End to finish it off there. But yeah, as you can see here, we've got the straight shot proc up, so we use that. Guaranteed crit, 56 damage, pretty awesome. And that also refreshes our stack, so often, just from using the guaranteed crits whenever they come up, you won't have to actually actively refresh your 10% crit buff, because it'll be coming up often enough that you don't have to worry about it. So the other skill you saw me using there was Misery's End. Now Misery's End is a pretty cool skill, it's pretty good fun. Now it is off the global cooldown, it has its own cooldown, 12 seconds, but you never really bump into that because it's a skill you use when your enemy's health is below 20%. Now you can use it, you can sort of chain it as whenever it's up when you're on bosses and things like that, but against normal mobs you use it as a finishing blow. Now, because it is one of those skills that is off the global cooldown, the best way to use it is to tie it in just after a heavy shot, or maybe a straight shot if you've got that guaranteed crit. So we'll go ahead and attack one of these guys, and still just using my basic skills here. I should have procced straight shot first, just to get that crit rate up, because you know then you're going to crit more of your heavy shots until you actually get that guaranteed crit from straight shot there. So we use this guy, and now our Misery's End will be up, and what we want to do is heavy shot, Misery's End at the same time. You see them both pop up the same. That is a kill move. That you know, that's where you finish off those mobs with that combo there. Now you can also chain that onto the guaranteed crit from straight shot as well. So that's a perfect way to do it. And it's a great way to finish off mobs. When you're like playing in a party or when you're playing in a fate and there's a mob that's about to die, it's pretty easy just to tab over to them, use a heavy shot Misery's End combo to finish them off, and that'll often give you your 30% damage as well, needed to get, you know, up your chain bonus and get the kill credit. So that's a good way to you know, kill steal, although you can't actually kill steal in Final Fantasy because everyone gets credit as long as they've done enough damage. So that's pretty cool. Now the next skill we have is Bloodletter. Now Bloodletter is another skill that is off the global cooldown. It has a 15-second recast, and you should be using this skill whenever it's available. I like to make sure I'm using it, you know, I always should have the straight shot buff up, but I like to make sure I use it after that. So in terms of initiating, what we can do is we can actually initiate with straight shot, followed immediately by Bloodletter. Now there's a chance that that Bloodletter will crit after you've got that 10% as well, so that's another great way to boost your damage, and that's why you want to use it afterwards as opposed to before. Now basically we just fight as per normal, using our normal skill rotations, and whenever this guy comes available, we use a skill and tie it onto the end of the skill. I was actually a little bit late there on that one. But you want to tie it onto the end of your heavy shot or onto the end of your straight shot, the same way you do with Misery's End. And then if the mob's almost dead, you will use Misery's End to finish it off. Now, the next skill we have is Venomous Bite. Venomous Bite is a skill you use differently. You use it depending on the situation. It's a great, firstly, it applies a damage over time attack. Its base attack damage is only 100 potency, but it has a 35 potency over 9 seconds duration damage over time effect, essentially. Venomous Bite is fantastic if you are producing a lot of threat in dungeons and having a hard time with, trying not to pull aggro off the tank. You can apply a Venomous Bite and then just switch between targets and, venom all of the targets to let your threat cool down a little bit, let your enmity cool down a little bit. It's also a great thing to apply early on in the fight and have that take damage over the course of the fight. Against a normal mob, you're going to do something like this. We'll apply our straight shot, we'll use our Bloodletter at the same time, then we'll apply a Venomous Bite, and then we'll go back to our normal rotation. So the entire time we're fighting this mob now, it'll be taking damage from the venom. We can just continue to use our normal rotation here, and once our Misery's End comes up, we can simply proc that for the kill there. So pretty cool rotation, and it's nice to sink in there. Against longer fights, against bosses and things like that, or just mobs that take a lot more damage, essentially what you want to do is you open up with a Venomous Bite, do your normal rotation, and then use Venomous Bite whenever it goes off cooldown. It has a 9-second cooldown. You'll learn that. Usually it's like 2 or maybe 3 rotations of your other skills, depending on which skills you're using, and then you can reapply your Venomous Bite, and that'll give you the maximum possible DPS. That'll min-max that DPS if you're making sure that that has 100% uptime, in addition to using all of the other skills. And you just want to slot it in. You know, if you have like a proc on Straight Shot, you want to use that first, then use your Venomous Bite. Overall, getting crits on Venomous Bite isn't too important because the initial attack damage isn't a huge deal. It's mostly about that that damage over time effect. So you want to mostly go for that. Now let's talk about. There's one last active skill. There's 2 last active skills actually, 3 last active skills, but one actual main one here. Firstly, Quick Knock. Now we get Quick Knock pretty late on, I believe. If I go into actions here, it's a level 18 one, so it's probably one of the last skills you'll get in this 0 to 20 category. Quick Knock has a cone attack, so if we view from the top down here, we might even be able to see this way what the actual cone looks like. We'll just use it against one enemy, but this is not the use of the enemy. I need to zoom out a little bit, and as you can see, that actually shows a pretty good indication of where the skill goes. So this area here, it looks a little bit bigger than it is, but it's kind of this area here. It's a conal AoE effect. Now it does only 110 potency, so it's not a good idea to use it against single target, and it also chews through your TP. 140 TP cost is huge, so a lot of the time in prolonged fights you're not even going to be using this skill at all. But it's pretty handy in things like Fates when you have 3 or maybe 4 mobs grouped up in that area. You can damage them all at once with this skill. And your overall DPS, if you're hitting, I think it's about 3 mobs where it starts to become efficient. If you're hitting 3 mobs or more, Quick Knock, your overall DPS that you're putting out to all mobs in the area will be very high. But as I said, the TP cost is one that prevents you from using this most of the time. So this is a very niche skill. You won't be using it too much. As I said, the main time I use it is if I'm in a Fate with a bunch of trash mobs in the area, I'll try and target one, position myself in a way so that the mobs are all bunched up, so we might get over here on this side of this mob here, or maybe they're moving around, but try and get all of those 3 mobs in that cone and position ourselves so that's happening, and they're all taking damage. And that also spreads the aggro you're producing around a bit as well. So that can sometimes you can pull a lot of mobs on yourself. So you got to be careful with that. It's a skill you won't use too much. It's kind of fun, and it's okay if you can get that AOE DPS for short periods of time. Now the next one we have is Repelling Shot, and I'll just show you what Repelling Shot does. That was not Repelling Shot. That's right. I got it control. There we go. Repelling Shot is indeed an escape, and it's also off the global cooldown, so you can proc it in just after, like a heavy shot or something like that. So we'll just kill this mob, and then I'll wait for that cooldown to finish, and I'll show you how you can sort of chain that in. Basically, if you're fighting an enemy, maybe you've accidentally drawn aggro off the tank, or an enemy's just getting a bit too close to you, or maybe you're in the AoE radius. Say it's like one of those tree slugs, and it's about to cast an AoE attack on you. You can use that to jump out of the way, and it is a pretty good escape for that reason. But it's also a good way just to add a little bit of extra DPS in as well. Now you have to be within a certain range, very close range, to actually use this skill. So as you can see, if I go just here, it's crossed out here. It won't actually work now if I cast it. But if I move a little bit closer, there we go, about that range there. So that's the range there if you want to get a good idea of that. You would need to be fairly close, basically. If you're within sort of melee range, it's a good idea to maybe use it. So basically, I want to cast Heavy Shot, and then I can cast my escape Repelling Shot there right after it. And obviously that increases your DPS as well because it's off the global cooldown. So that's pretty much how I use that skill. Just use it as an escape or to boost your DPS a little bit more. We'll finish this guy off. Now the last active skill we have is Shadowbind. Shadowbind attacks a target, and it does a couple of interesting things. Firstly, it binds the target to the location for 10 seconds. So this is a great way to lock a target down. Now this bind will be cancelled if someone else or you attack that mob again. So what it also does is it cancels your auto attack. So when you normally when you're attacking an enemy and you're aiming towards, you're looking towards them, as long as you're in something like this of a looking towards this mob, for example, as long as you're something like this, you'll be auto attacking that time. That just happens automatically, and it it does a little bit more damage. But if you cast Shadow Bind, it will cancel your auto attack, and that is important because it means you won't cancel that that bind effect. Shadow Bind you mainly use in dungeons to lock down a mob so that the party can have a bit of an easier time. It locks them down for 10 seconds. If a bunch of ads spawn, you can use it on one, then switch over to the target of the tank and DPS them down. And in 10 seconds is enough time usually to buy you and the tank to finish off a mob and then move back onto that mob. So it's a great way. If you use this correctly and if you use it often, your party will really thank you. So what you want to do is, if you're communicating with your party, it's really great to tell them which one you're going to be binding, or to maybe you can probably even set up a macro whenever you use Shadow Bind. It will mark your mob with a particular sign that you tell your party means that that target is bound and they should not attack. So that's a good way to do that. Bind it to a macro, so hit your macro button and cast that and that. Maybe I'll make a video on macros later on down the road, but it's still something I need to explore myself. Or otherwise, if you're just soloing, you can use it, if you've accidentally pulled aggro on 2 mobs, you can bind one while you finish one off. So it's just a nice defensive one like that, and it's a nice utility skill in general. You won't use it too much while you're just leveling by yourself though. And then the final skill we have is Raging Strikes. Raging Strikes is a buff, 20-second buff, and it gives you a flat 20% increased damage. Now this is pretty huge. So basically you just want to use it at the start of an important fight. It's got a pretty long cooldown, so when you're in dungeons you want to use it just in major fights, or when you're soloing, just use it whenever, just before or just after you start fighting mobs. Now you can cast this just after your attack, so ideally you want to use it before you start using all of your other skills that deal damage. So we can even just cast it right at the start of the fight. So we can go something like cast this guy, use our crit strike, tie in our blood letter, and then go back to our normal rotation. We can even throw in a venom, use our proc crit there. Maybe we can even throw in the leap back and then finish him off with a Misery's End. Pretty good fun. I really enjoy the Archer. I really enjoy the damage and how active it is. But I think that just about covers everything. As I said, Archer's really fun. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this guide. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.